Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I wanted to break down, the trailer for The Walking Dead Season 2, Episode 4. There's a lot to talk about in here, and this is going to be a big episode. There's a lot of hype for this episode specifically out of all episodes of the season. It's Episode 4 and Episode 6, which is obviously the finale, so I'm really excited for this episode. I mean, they really did build it up, like the cliffhanger at the very, very end of Episode 3, which I guess I should say before we get into that. Obviously, this will contain spoilers for the episode, for Episode 3, but Madame Janae is just outside of the nest, and so the fact that she is just right there, like we know a bunch of stuff's going to go down here in this episode. Super walkers are going to be there, and I really can't wait to see where this is going to go overall. Like, honestly, I'm really excited to see how episode 4 plays out, because this could really go in a crazy direction here, because the trailer, first of all, does show us quite a bit here. I do think there is going to be a big death. It's going to be a really big moment, I think, where I think that we're likely going to lose the nest. I think it's going to be a place that's just going to fall, because I thought that could happen in episode 6 or something because of the shots with, you know, the variant walkers or the super walkers and whatnot. I thought that was probably from episode 6, but no, it looks like it's happening in episode 4. So yeah, a lot to talk about. So make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Walking Dead content like this, but let's actually break down the trailer here. So the first shot here is of the nest, and again, I think that most of this episode is likely going to take place here because everyone is there now, right? Like Madame Janae and Pouvoir, they're just outside, and Daryl and Isabelle are there, obviously, with everyone. I think Laurent and Falou are away from the nest, but I mean, for the most part, everyone is here. I don't even know if we'll see Laurent in this episode, to be honest. Maybe in the end if they all get away, but yeah, we do see the nest here, and the very first shot here is of Isabelle, and she's actually holding that metal piece from the drain cover, right? So I imagine this is going to come into play at some point in the episode here. Maybe this is how she gets away at some point. I mean, maybe this is how she frees herself. I'm not entirely sure how it's all going to go down. I will say, I think Daryl is going to just escape, because we actually see that in the trailer here. I mentioned in my episode 3 review, like maybe that's how Carol and Daryl reunite, is Carol saves Daryl, right? Like, I think the reunion's going to happen in this episode because they're both like right there. Like, if Daryl ran away and then Carol got there, like, because there's only 3 episodes left, I'm just like, it makes sense. Carol and Daryl are probably going to reunite at some point in episode 4. Maybe they can't really catch up or anything like that, but episode 5, maybe they catch up then, and then they sort of tell some sort of story for episode 6, and then we'll see where they're at that point. Obviously, season 3 is going to be in Spain, and I don't know how they decide to go to Spain or what happens there, but obviously we'll learn that in the next couple of episodes. This is going to be the big episode of the season, I really do feel like, because it's really set up that way. And so yeah, we do see Daryl here, and I think that, again, he's just like, let me out. You know, I think that Pouvoir is going to be there. There's going to be super walkers and all that. There's going to be some sort of attack. A bunch of stuff's going to happen, and then Daryl obviously is aware of that and is just like, let me out. I can help you. That's why he's just like, he raises his arm. He's like, just let me out. And so I think that that's what he's going to do. And then Daryl's going to take out all those super walkers, obviously. And then I wonder if they will do a very similar thing to episode 3, where it was like all one continuous shot. Because honestly, that was really cool. But yeah, I think that's how Daryl's going to get out. And then I think that Isabelle might get out on her own as well, because of that metal piece that she has there, or the drain cover or whatever. So I think that could be how she gets out. But we see Lo Sang, and Lo Sang seems to be talking with either Isabelle or Madame Janae. And I say Madame Janae because there's a shot that we haven't seen yet, and it's of Madame Janae talking with Lo Sang, and I think it's at the nest, and I don't see how it's going to happen in episode 5 or 6 at this point, because Lo Sang and Janae are like right here. I think this is Lo Sang actually talking to Janae, and I don't know if they're working out a deal or what they're talking about specifically, if it's just about their beliefs, this and that, but I think that's likely what's happening here. And so I think that maybe Lo Sang dies in this episode. Honestly, could see that. Maybe he actually just dies in this scene here. I think that's probably what's happening here, but they are going to be trying to convince Isabelle to, I guess, join their side. And that's the one thing about the nest, is they're going to try and do that, right? Like, they're going to try and convince Isabelle to, I guess, believe in what they're trying to do, because I do think that, you know, from their perspective, it would calm things down quite a bit. But I think because Daryl is there, you know, it's never going to really happen. And I think that Lo Sang really wants to see if Isabelle can believe in, you know, I guess what they believe in here. And I think he'll learn as he's talking to her that no, Isabelle's not going to believe in, you know, what he's saying and whatnot. So I think there will be some issues there. We see this vehicle here show up, and yeah, takes out this whole group of people. Really reminds me of the governor from season 3's finale of the original series, The Walking Dead, where the governor just completely takes out a bunch of people. I mean, I think what would have been really insane then is if he also had like some sort of serum that turned walkers into super walkers, right? Could you imagine that? This is basically that scene, but like times a billion, right? Like, this is just going to be absolutely insane. And I will say, I like the fact that in the trailer, it confirms that Carol does survive here, right? So we saw that at the end of episode 3. I mean, we saw that really throughout. You know, they were doing a lot of experiments on stuff, and we saw one of the scientists there actually have some of the serum in this scene actually at the very end of episode 3. So that's what they're going to do here. That's why we have so many super walkers running at the nest. And so luckily, Carol survives here. I mean, obviously, it makes sense that she's going to. I can't wait to watch the scene, though, because I want to see how it happens, like, specifically. Obviously, she sort of just drops, and I don't know how she gets out of this. Like, that's the thing, you know, when it comes to this scene, how is she going to get away? Because after everyone's, you know, on the ground, like, they're going to turn everyone into super walkers, and so, obviously, Carol can't just, like, get up and then, like, run away, or, like, what's going to happen? I'm worried there's going to be some sort of, like, convenient moment that happens here. I mean, I think Cadron, if he shows up and saves her, that would be really interesting, because, I mean, where is he? I think he will be in this episode. Maybe he dies in this episode, right? I think that would be kind of insane. Though, I don't think so, because there's that one shot of Cadron with Daryl, and it's during the day. I don't think that's happening here in this episode. I feel like this episode is going to be pretty much nighttime the entire time until the very end, where I think we'll see Daryl and Carol talking and all that, but I'll talk about that here in a second. We do see this cannon go off here, and it actually takes out one of the doors here at the nest, and so again, there's going to be this huge battle that takes place here, and it's really exciting because we haven't really had a battle scene happen really in a long time. Like, back in the day, we would talk about that a lot, you know, like, with the Whisperers, like, oh, there's a hilltop battle with the Whisperers, or an Alexandria battle, right? Like, it's been a very long time, because even the Commonwealth battle, there really wasn't a battle there that was that exciting for the most part, honestly. A lot of that was like with the Whisperers, and then when you look at the Ones Who Live, there wasn't really any sort of battle that happened at all. It was just, I mean, Rick and Michonne somehow easily took everyone out. In Dead City, there wasn't anything that really happened as well. So this episode here, to have, you know, two groups like the Nest versus Pouvoir with all the super walkers and everything, like, this is going to be one of the best battles that we've seen in a very long time. So yeah, I'm really excited about this episode. And then we get this one shot here of Daryl, and again, this is like I guess the morning after all of that, and I do think at this point here he is talking with Carol, and so the way I see this all playing out, and again, I don't know if Isabelle's actually going to die, but I just feel like it's going to happen. I don't know. Like, I'm praying it's not going to happen. I really love Isabelle as a character. She's a really amazing character. Honestly, one of the best parts about this show, for her to be gone off this show, it's really like, the show's not going to be the same, but obviously that there's a lot of other great characters on the show, but I just, you know, I really wanted to see the dynamic between Carol and Isabelle. There's so much I wanted to see. I think it would be such a big mistake, you know, having the character not on the show anymore. And so we'll have to wait and see how it's all done, and, you know, what the show's like afterwards. I think if Cadron became a main character, you know, with the group, that could also be really cool as well, because Cadron's a really likable character. There's a lot of different things that they can do here. You know, Ash is also a really likable character as well. So it just depends on how they sort of have, I guess, the scenes play out, and, you know, how the characters interact, and I guess what the story is. So we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, a big death is going to happen, and I think out of all the characters, if you want to make a really emotional scene happen where there is a big death, then it makes sense for it to be Isabelle, right? Like, you know, for Daryl to be completely heartbroken and everything. I could see it happening in this episode. I'll probably do a video talking more specifically about this later, maybe this week, if we do see any sort of, you know, because they usually do release like new teaser images and a bunch of stuff like that. So I'll probably talk about it a little bit more this week, but I'm really not looking forward to it. If Isabelle does die in this episode, I don't know how I'm going to feel about it. I have to see how they would do the scene if it does happen. But in this scene here, you know, I think that Daryl and Carol will have reunited. And so I wonder if that's sort of how they're doing it. Like, Isabelle dies, and so you're going to be heartbroken about that. But then Carol shows up with Daryl, and so you're sort of happy about that as well. I don't know. We'll have to see how this plays out here. But I do think this shot here of Daryl is him talking with Carol, because there's going to be some scenes of Daryl and Carol killing, I guess, walkers and stuff, and they're trapped in a vehicle. I don't think that's happening in episode 4, because there's too much that needs to happen in episode 4. So that's probably an episode 5 thing. So it'll likely happen then. Any sort of discussion about, oh, you know, did Rick come back? Which I don't think it's going to be Rick, because, you know, based off the early reviews anyways, I feel like there would have been a lot more discussion about it if it was Rick, which is fine. Honestly, I'm not really that disappointed about that, because I think that means that we can actually see Carol's reaction to finding out that Rick made it back to Alexandria. If Carol already knew about it, I mean, that would be really unfortunate, because I want to see their reactions for the first time when they learn that news. Not have it happen off screen. I think that would just be, I wouldn't be a fan of that. But yeah, I think Daryl and Carol are going to reunite in this episode. It's going to be a pretty big episode, I do feel like. Like, honestly, out of all 4 episodes, like, if all of that happens here, there's this big nest battle, Isabelle dies. I'm not sure what happens to the nest at that point. They're probably all going to leave. Where is Laurent? Daryl and Carol reuniting. Like, it's going to be a really crazy episode. Then I think for episode 5 and 6, episode 5 will probably be where Carol and Daryl catch up on a lot of stuff. And Laurent's out there, so, I don't know if anyone from the nest will still be alive, but they're probably going to be looking for Laurent. Daryl and Carol are going to be looking for Laurent as well, right? I don't know if they're going to still be in that place. Povar and Madame Genet, they're going to be looking for Laurent as well. So at that point, it's going to be, I guess, where do they go now? So maybe that's how they decide to go to Spain, that I'm thinking about it. Like, maybe they're like, you know what, we can't be here. It's not safe. And so they eventually decide to go to Spain. There's probably going to be some other final, thing that happens there where they do find Laurent or something, but maybe that leads to Madame Genet's death or whatever. Maybe that happens in the finale, and then eventually they go to Spain. I don't know where things are going here, but I do think that overall, they're not going to be able to stay in France because there's just too much going on. I also think it would be kind of insane if everyone from Povar is gone, everyone from the nest is gone, and then season 2 ends with, they're just sort of leaving to go to Spain. And again, I don't know where they're going here, but you're starting to see the pieces fall into place here a little bit, I feel like. I think that they're going to realize that they can't really stay here. I mean, they've already made the decision that they want to go back to America, right? Like Isabelle and Laurent are going to go with Daryl. So I'm just curious as to how that's going to work out overall. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. So I'm going to leave it here, though. Definitely post your thoughts and your predictions for episode 4 down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.